Hey, 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 what is going on? Oh, let me get my share mode going so I don't forget to do that. There we go. How's everybody doing today? Make sure you guys can hear me, first of all, and then secondly, do you see the slide share screen? I may be muted. You can raise your hand if you're around noise. Oh, I see Susanna. You can hear me okay? If you got noise in the background. Okay, cool. All right. Cool, cool. Let me make sure my sound is up. All right, everybody. I hope you don't mind me being a little casual, supporting my mega relief when we were all in Texas for mega camp and had to bail out I think it was hurricane people or something south. I think it was. Anyway, so a little casual today. On calls all day long, coaching calls with you guys. So anyway, cool. All right. Anybody have any questions about anything, or not even questions about anything necessarily? I don't know if you have any questions or not, other than when you look at the topic today, we're on buyer consultations. So this is usually a topic that can generate some questions or just wondering how to do something or what you want to try and get when you're doing a buyer consultation. Are you getting buyer agencies signed ahead of time? Are you actually meeting with them in the office or meeting them somewhere? Usually this is the one that people have the most questions about. So again, if there's anything that you think you want to get out of buyer consultations, whether or not you've had them or not, maybe that's even it. Have you had buyer consultations? Haven't had any yet? Wouldn't know where to start. Just to kind of get a read from who's here. If you guys can talk and you don't have background noise, what you might want to get out of today's session before we just dig into it. And if there isn't anything, we'll dig into it. But also, you know, what is going on in your businesses? How many appointments are you having? How many buyers are you working with? How many sellers are you working with? Are you able to try out some of the stuff that we've been getting in Ignite, or is it like no appointments, nothing happening? It's another thing I'd like to get a read on. And yeah, go ahead. Just to kind of see where you guys are, how I can best help you really apply this stuff, get the most out of it, and probably more importantly, start growing your business to where you can start cashing in on everything we are talking about. Anybody have any questions, comments, add anything about what your business is doing, what it's not doing?
Well, I just I joined Keller Williams in February. I mean this month, and we had a welcome this week. But I'm really like, first I'm very overwhelmed, and it's been so long without being in a workforce field, you know, that I'm like, I recently came out of divorce, so I'm trying like to go in every single call and every single training and learn the most I can from people that have experience. But I really feel like I lost in a maze. Like I don't know where to start. Like I have a small circle of people that I know. Um, so I don't know what will be the best thing like for people like me.
Awesome. I'm so glad you shared that. So is it brand new to real estate and just came to KW? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm coming back to it. Anybody else? How is your business looking? What's it look like? Do you have too much business? Do you not have enough? Have you been trying to do consultations or not working? Then we'll jump on all of this. How can you get the most out of this? Like beyond just getting the information, how can I help you boost your business? What's missing?
I'm like Susanna, I'm new. And for now, I'm kind of practicing my cold callings with rentals. just like before I go to the buyers and
Yep.
sellers. So yeah, I don't know if I'm in the right way, but it's a start to practice,
No, that is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else? All right, so let me address that if fairly new. And let me see who else is in here. Liz, just kind of raise your hand. Are you new to real estate? Nope.
I'm the same. I'm new. Yes, I'm very new.
Okay, cool. Ladies, we're gonna have fun today. We're gonna really talk about just there's a couple things that are going to happen. It's going to be getting some activity for your business. And this is for anybody who's even listening to it after we've recorded it too, like coming back and watching the recording. If you've been in business, your business may not be as busy as you want it to be. So it doesn't even matter if you've been in business for a while or you're new. Today, we're going to talk about not only like really on purpose, getting in front of people to get a real estate conversation going, and how to take this buyer consultation information and use it and do it with both. And what that does not entail necessarily is that I'm going to tell you have to go find somebody who's ready to buy right now to use it with. This is going to be for anybody and everybody on your list. And I'll be honest with you, no matter what topic I'm teaching, no matter what class it is, no matter if it's a 1 hour class, no matter if it's a half-day class, a 3-day class, it doesn't matter. Everything comes back to talking to people. And let me rephrase that a little bit, because our industry teaches us to go find the next deal. And when you're newer, for you three ladies, you're newer and you're anxious to get into it and get going and like really talk to somebody who says, I want to see a house or I want to sell my house. We want that conversation so bad. And the industry is always pushing us to go find the next deal that we kind of get in and like Susanna was sharing earlier that I did say your name right, didn't I? Yeah, gotta put my glasses on sometimes. It's like Susanna was saying, it's like there's so much stuff available between Command and the app and all the training and everything else. So what you want to do, everything comes down to one core thing. And one core thing is if you're talking to people, somebody's going to be moving. And if you kind of pull back a little bit from talking to people that want to buy and want to sell because you're anxious to get your real estate business going, what we know for a fact is that every person on average moves every 5 to 10 years. I mean, some people will stay in their house 30 years. Some people, you probably know somebody who moves every year. I was that guy. I moved every year for probably the first 20 years of my life. So we moved every single year. So the average is somewhere between 5 to 7 years that people are moving. And again, when we first get in here and it's like cold calling and all the classes and all the stuff, and we want to use it, whoever you're talking to today has a 1 to 2% chance that they're moving today or even thinking about moving today. And where that number comes from is that if there's 100 people, it's the best way to do the math. Let's just say the next 100 people that you talk to, and I don't care if it's within a month or it's within 6 months or it's within a year, the next 100 people that whatever you're doing to talk to people about real estate, whenever you're talking to them, if the average person is moving every 5 to 10 years, then that means if it's 100 people and they're moving every 10 years, just know that that means 10 of them are moving. I want you to remember this math I want this ingrained in you because it will change the whole way you have conversations and talk to people and work real estate. So out of 100 people, if they're moving every 10 years, that's 10 people that are moving in the next year. 10 out of 100 are moving this year. That also means that 90 out of those 100 aren't moving this year, but 10 more are moving next year and 10 more are moving the year after that. If the market is every 5 years, out of 100 people, 20 of them are moving this year and 20 are moving next year and 20 are moving the year after that. So what stinks about getting started in real estate is the next 100 people we talk to, If there's 10 or 20 of them moving, right, and there's 12 months in the year, so let's divide 10 by 12. That's less than one is moving this at this period of time that I'm talking to the next 100 people, less than one. If they're moving, if it's 20, then one to maybe a little more than one might be moving. And that the 5 and the 10 years depends on how hot your market is. I mean, if people are getting more for their house than they should be, that's going to be a hotter market. People won't stay in their house as long. They're going to cash out and because their house is worth more. However, we're also layering in a factor that they also got to have somewhere to go. So we've got actually in all of the past recordings, we talked about this stuff. So it's good to hear it again, to re-listen to those recordings that are on the Google Drive that has access to all the the handouts and the recordings and all that stuff. So if you don't have that, let me know, or let your leadership know you're trying to get the links to all the Ignite stuff. But back to this topic. No matter what you do in real estate, especially if you're new, hear me. For every 100 people you talk to, only one's moving. So if you need a deal pretty quick, guess how many people you have to start talking to? 100, right? And that 100, I mean, if you need a deal this week, you need to talk to 100 people this week. If you talk to 100 people this week, we're already on Wednesday. I need to talk to 30 people a day. Yeah, go ahead if you have a question.
I always hear how people kind of just make calls, but I wonder, like, how do they get their numbers? How can I go put myself out there? Like, I still haven't figured that one out as well. I know that I don't, you know, we normally don't have 100 friends every week or every day to call.
Yep. And that's such a great question. So if you haven't been following us through all of this, I'm going to reiterate it one more time because it's so critical. And even if somebody came to every Ignite we've done right now, so we're like on number 5 of elements. So we've had 9 plus 5. We're on 14 sessions. And I'm going to say it again, because even if you've been to all 14 sessions, I'm going to bet 99% of the people that have been to all of these sessions, even if they've been to a second and a third time, 99% of the people that have attended do not have a master list notebook sitting on their desk with them. Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'll give 5%. Yes, I'm going to say 5% of the people probably have a notebook, a master list notebook sitting on their desk. Now, are you feeding it every single day and writing those names in there every single day, right? And then you just go to, now it's just taking a little bit of time to go over fastpeoplesearch.com, like look at the name. So once you get the names in the notebook, don't do anything else. Just get the names in the notebook. Every name in Facebook in there, every name from your phone in there. Don't even do anything else. Don't try to find phone numbers or any of that stuff. So now if I take an hour a day and I open that notebook up, and this is your pre-hour before you're going to start calling. So this might even be before 9 a.m., right? Get your workout in, get your notebook up, and just go through your phone and see if that name is in your phone, right? And chances are the name's in your phone and there's their phone number. Write it down in your notebook. And then what you don't have is the address. So then you go to fastpeoplesearch.com, you put in their phone number, do a reverse search, and then you find some addresses, write those down. And then go into your email, search their name, see what comes up. Oh, dang, there was an email from 6 months ago. We just chatted about something or whatever. And in their signature line is their email. Well, first of all, there's their email. So now you got their email. But if you didn't have an address yet, you might get a work address or something if they sent it from their work email. Most people probably don't have signatures, email signatures for their personal address. But then I go to Facebook. So let's just say I don't have the address yet. And if I don't have the number yet, I'm still looking in all these sources. But let's just say I go to Facebook and it shows me I currently live in whatever city they live in, right? It says where they've lived, where they're from, and what city they live in. And also in the about, I might find a phone number or I might find an address in there. Some people, like very few people do it, but people do it and it can fill in the gap. So you're going to find them from all those sources. Just Google their name and see what pops up, right? And even sometimes this is going to sound weird, but even if I'm really struggling on address and I know them and I've got their number, I mean, you can just pick up the phone and call. And if it's somebody you really get connected with or reconnected with, you can ask them, so where are you living now? Do you guys own your home now? I mean, because you're filling in the gaps and but you're going to start a conversation first. You're not going to jump right into that. So once yeah, go ahead. Does somebody have a question?
Yes, I own a house and I wanted to know, like, how can I approach my neighbors? Two of them already sold their houses and I want to sell mine, of course, too. Not us right now, next year possibly. And I want to practice with that too. But I just want to approach my neighborhood. How do I introduce myself? Like,
well,
is there any script?
Well, that one to me seems easy, because if it's my neighborhood, I could almost walk through the neighborhood, honestly, every night. I'm going to go on my walk. My wife goes on a walk every night, so I would join her and I would just start knocking on doors while I'm walking. And I would literally, the neighborhood seems easy to me because all I would say is, hey, Brad Korn, I'm your neighbor. And they're like, oh, hey, I don't know if I've met you yet. So I'm on my walk and I just made it a goal this year to meet my neighbors. And they're like, oh, cool. So I see, again, I probably might not even bring real estate up right away. I'm just being a neighbor, right? Now, if I get the opportunity, I might also add this script with it. And I've done everything I share with you guys, I've done too. So I know, like, I won't share it if it doesn't work. I've done it and it doesn't work. You're not going to hear me share it. But I would say, I live in the neighborhood. I am a real estate agent. I know you're probably not moving or anything, but I am selling houses in here. I have a vested interest in making sure that all of our neighbors sell their house for the most money possible now, because I live here. So I'm here to actually just introduce myself. And if you ever just wonder what's going on in the neighborhood, I have access to past sales, what's on the market, anything like that. But I really just wanted to meet you as a neighbor. So see, I wouldn't even do that second part that I just said until my next connection. You don't want to eat up all your connections in one connection, right? Interact with them as a human being, as a neighbor first. And then I'm going to write a note to them that I'm going to drop in the mail. It is so great meeting you. Your house is gorgeous. Love how you've taken care of your yard. No, I'm Maya in the note, right? And this is all coming back to the buyer consultation. So pay attention, right? I'm going to show you how to use this information today with what we're talking about right now. So I will say, I love your yard. You maintain your home so well. You got to have a great view of the lake, whatever it might be. And then I'm going to have a couple pieces drip. So this is a real true 8x8. Anybody I get into two-way conversation with that I can write a note to, they're going to go on an 8x8. So the next piece might be a resume. The next piece might be an email link to my website. And it just says, in case you want to know what a neighbor's house is on the market for, here's a link to save in your email. Do you notice how I said save? And I'm actually telling them, save this in your phone or save this in your email. And I'm driving them to make it sticky. And then in my 8x8, a call is going to pop up in 4 weeks. And in 4 weeks, that's when I bring out the realtor. I say, it's so great meeting you a couple of weeks ago, because now they've gotten the note, they've got some other stuff, and I've dug their number up on Fast People Search or whatever, right? And then I say, I just want to let you know too that you're probably not selling right now, but I did want to let you know that I am a real estate agent. I love protecting values in the neighborhood I live in. In fact, every house that we sell for a great price improves the value of my house. So I have a vested interest to make sure that every property sells for the most money possible in here. So if you catch wind before I do, if somebody thinking of moving, will you give me a call? Oh yeah. Well, now I just put value behind why they would want to call. But that right there is not going to make them call me. I mean, you're going to have to stay in touch with them and still talk to them again. They're not going to see anybody today thinking of selling. They're not going to see anyone thinking of moving tomorrow, most likely. In fact, only 1% of the next 100 people they bump into is going to be thinking of selling. There's never more than 1% or 2% of the population moving at any given time when we cross paths with them and when they cross paths with them. So in that context, just know that when you're asking for referrals or expecting people to send you referrals, only 1% of anyone they're meeting's moving. So the odds that they're going to remember you in that 1% of the next 100 people they talk to means you don't get very many referrals unless you're very on purpose about it and you get them to ask the next 100 people, right? or stay in touch with those 100 people and keep meeting people. It's just the 1%'s a reality. So before I move on from that, does that help at all on how you would do the neighborhood? You're going to create a plan. You're not tackling the world in one meeting. You're not going to get, you're going to have to meet 100 neighbors to find one to say, you know what, it's weird you're talking to us today. We are thinking about it. You're going to have to talk to 100 of your neighbors before you're going to get that. There's somewhere in that
Okay.
first 100. Okay. So
Thank you.
Everything's the long game. And before I even go into this, where you're going to be able to use this material is the 4 laws of lead generation. 1, build a database. Okay, you have it. It's command. That one's done. 2, feed it every day. Every day. That goes back to the notebook. In fact, this buyer consultation, if you're not feeding your database every day, then I can't get you in front of anybody to use the stuff we're going to talk about today. But if you feed it every day, I promise you, and I'm going to share with you a way that you can even practice it with people that aren't buying, that don't need the consultation yet, but you can get a few of them in before you really get your first buyer. The last thing you want to do is get a buyer for the first time 3 weeks from now, and you don't remember what we covered in this class. So you actually go ahead.
How do you approach someone that you just met, but you know that they are obviously not looking, but obviously you meet them for the first time and you know you're not going to see them again, but you want to share to them that, you know, you have.
So that brings me to step number 3. Step number 1 is have a database. Step number 2 is feed it every day. And what I'm feeding it with is that person that you just asked me about, that I just met, right? So I'm going to put them in command. Step number 3, communicate with them systematically. And as Gary Keller says, persistent and consistent. So how I'm going to move that relationship to that part is not on that first meeting. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I wish I could figure out a way that everybody you met would go, heck yeah, I'll sit down and meet with you. It's not going to happen. So it's consistently, persistently, and persistently means like if you think you're pestering them, that's persistent, right? Don't back it off. It didn't say your comfortable level of persistence. It says 8 times in 8 weeks and then 36 times a year. It was a study that was done from the people that are making $1 million selling real estate. And this is the way they've all done it, right? So it's consistently, persistently, stay in communication with them. And then step 4 is service all the leads that come your way. If you do the first 3, then you're going to have more business, and it allows you to focus on taking care of them when they come do business with you. The shotgun approach, where we're trying to grab that 1% and trying to shove them through the process because we just need a sale or we want to try this stuff and pulling them through. I mean, we're so busy trying to maintain this deal now, keeping it all going, that we don't feed it every day. We don't stay in touch with the rest of the people systematically. And then by the time you would pull them through and get them closed, you got to start all over again. And it's a vicious roller coaster ride, and it is not a fun roller coaster ride. I love thrill. I love the drop hills. I love the loops, but this is not the fun roller coaster. Okay. So if you're scared, that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, the reality is you got to capture them, get them in, and then stay in touch with them. The answer to your question specifically is sometime in the next 7, 8, 9 connections, they would probably sit down and hear something about something with real estate. And it might be a year from now, and it might be 3 years from now. Does that make sense? Now, I'm also going to layer this in because now we're going to move into the consultation. You got buyer leads, like somebody clicked on information, or once you make these connections and you're in front of people, you might be setting them up on an MLS search for their neighborhood. That's my goal, is to get everybody, if they own their home for sure, is to get them in MLS on an auto search that keeps properties coming to them. In the meantime, I'm still layering my 8x8 and 33 touch in there. But if I'm sending them their neighborhood and just say, this is another great one for the neighborhood one, Susanna, is that you're setting them up on an MLS search for your subdivision to alert them anytime something new hits the market, goes under contract or sold. And it's just a saved search inside the MLS. Again, I need their email. So one of the value propositions, maybe not the first appointment, would be, hey, one of the things I do, so this might be the third call. It might be the first call of the 36 touch. Now I've earned my trust as a neighbor, and then they know I'm a real estate agent. It's like, hey, one of the things I just realized, I don't have your email. What I've been doing for a bunch of neighbors is setting up a search in the neighborhood so you know what's coming on the market the minute it goes live. I mean, you get it as fast as all the real estate agents in town. Secondly, when it goes under contract, and thirdly, when it finally sells, you'll know what it sold for. Like, what? And it's like, it's free. I just didn't have an email to set you up on it. Can you see how, like, this is, I'm just gradual. I'm like the go-to person now. You guys see that? So it's not happening on the first call or the first appointment, knock on the door. I'm a real estate agent, want to protect your values. Can I get your address, your phone number? And you got to do the note. You got to just let it go and be okay with that, because 98 to 99% of them aren't moving right now anyway. So just enjoy the ride, enjoy the process. Okay. If they happen to be one of the 1%, and I told you not to do that, what I can promise you is they will say, hey, we just started the process of looking for a house. Then you're going to go, well, that's why I stopped by here today. Has anybody told you about the process and what to expect and how to take advantage of the current market conditions? And they're going to be like, no, we just sent an email and they sent us a whole bunch of properties and they weren't even what we told them we were looking for. It's like, great. Well, I'm glad I stopped by today then. What's your situation? Now I'm in a real estate conversation. So it will happen 1% of the time. If they're the 1%, you don't have to ask to find out if they're the 1%. They're going to tell you. Does that make sense? So anytime that stuff comes up. Now, the second layer, as we go through this, that I want you to keep in perspective, and then I'll make sure there's no more questions before we jump into it. But one more thing. Oh, and I see a hand up too. So I'll come to you in a sec. One more thing that you're going to do is, once you get this, the reason why I spent this much time talking about it is because if you can be okay just connecting with people, not making it about real estate, in the plans of writing a note and in the plans of having another call in 4 weeks and another call in 8 weeks, and really truly following the 8x8 that Gary Keller did in his very own business over 30 years ago. It's how he built the entire company off of this. And if you get in that, as you build this relationship up, just like I went through the process of the neighborhood, where you can see that our relationship's growing a little bit along the way, I'm telling you, if you start this now, you're going to have people that you can say, some people are going to say, hey, I just went through another way of explaining the process of buying a house and all that stuff. And I just wondered if you were up for just hearing it. I'd love to get your opinion on it and see what, if you were a buyer someday, am I covering the information that you would want? Somebody's, like your mom, for example, well, you're going to have people in a little better relationship where you might be closer to your mom level, where your mom will sit there and listen to you. She'll also give you the hardest feedback of anyone. But imagine like your best friend. Somebody, raise your hand if you know somebody in your sphere of influence that is excited about your real estate career. They love hearing about it. They love to hear what you're doing. They love to hear when you get a listing or if you got some activity happening. That's the person I'm talking about, that you can say, hey, I really appreciate you supporting me in real estate and stuff. And I've got a process that I take people through when they're thinking of buying. Would you mind listening to it and just tell me if I'm missing anything or if I got the right information covering? And you've got your consultation. There's one right in command that you can follow. And now you're sitting down to do a consultation. So what we're doing as you go through the filter through today's classes, don't think of this as, I got to get this down to get a buyer consultation. Think of it as, I need to do consultations and I need to do them with as many people as possible that will listen to me, whether they're buying or not, right? And so 5 of these that I give to people that aren't buying right now, what I can tell you is after you go through the process, no matter if you do it great or not, you can butcher it. They don't know what it's supposed to be like. You could butcher the thing to death and just cover like parts that you hit on buying a house and stuff because you're asking for their opinion anyway, right? What you did was you planted the seed you planted a seed in all of them. And if they were one of the people that's a 1%er 3 months from now or 6 months from now, I promise you, they will call you back the next day or the next week, and they're going to go, hey, I've been thinking about, since you guys went through that process and stuff, I drove past a really cute house. I've loved this neighborhood, and I saw a sign for sale. I was wondering, if that's still for sale. See, now I just open the door for them to go, oh, yeah, I'm glad you called me. In fact, put me in your phone, save this. You text me any address you ever drive by, and I'll pull it up and see if it's available. But you see what just happened? They weren't a buyer till months later, and I might have missed them had I not connected with them. All right, before I go any further, I know Elizabeth had her hand up. Did you have a question or anything you wanted to add, Elizabeth? Are you guys getting pumped about this now?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to just chime in and talk about that your smart plan. It's just like it's been such a blessing. It's just such like an aha. I'm working with 3 different buyers from my sphere of influence just from setting up the smart plan. It's just they just keep coming to me, and I realized that the person I spoke to yesterday, they told me that they didn't get to me sooner because their emails were going to the spam folder. So now it also puts me like back to what you said. You got to get on the phone. You have to call the people. It's not enough to just email them. It's just like, it's amazing. I don't have to I know that she was requesting a list of phone numbers to call, but you have them right there on your phone. You don't have to go and get strangers. Just talk to the people that you know. They know somebody.
Man, I'm so glad you shared that, because actually just being in front of them and talking to them, you just showed that planting that seed kind of triggers something. It turns something on. It in bold, they call it the oh my gosh, what's that thing when you buy a car and you see it everywhere? I just totally blanked out. I've been teaching this stuff for years. Anybody take bold recently? The word I'm thinking of starts with an I. And it's the attention thing that you see it everywhere. And when you're pregnant, you'll see babies everywhere, but you never saw them before. It's my old man cutting, or just my old brain kicking in here. I will think of it, and it's going to be stupid that I could not remember what it was. It's not an I. Reticular activator. That kicks in when you talk to them about real estate, or if you sit down and do the buyer consultation with them. Their reticular activator all of a sudden starts noticing properties for sale. And that just means they start noticing it more, so then they have more questions. And then they'll call you with an address here or there, whatever it might be. So yes, thank you for sharing that, because that is real world what happens. And think of it this way too, because I downplay the email so much that if I'm going to send an email, if I want to convert somebody into an appointment, whatever I'm doing, if I'm sending the email, it's almost like I need to send a text that says, hey, I'm sending you an email, watch for it. And I do this all the time. Text, email's coming, send the email, call the next day. Did you get the email? It's 3 touches for 1 email. And if I could just say, that's the general rule. If you're ever sending an email, you got to have a text and a call behind it, in front of it and behind it. That's the only way it's going to be effective. That would be realistic. So I'm glad you did share that, Elizabeth, because what you guys are experiencing is what we really need to cover here. I mean, I've experienced it too, but it's good to hear it from you, all of you. All right, anything else before we jump into the consultation part? So again, buyer presentations and getting listings, setting the appointment. Well, we already talked about it. You got to capture them first and get them into your system, and then you have to cultivate them to get the appointment. And the cultivate, it's still cultivate if you're calling somebody out of the blue, unless it's your mother. Everybody in your master list that you're moving out of the master list into command, into cultivate, which, by the way, how that happens, you found enough information on enough people that if you do this, you'll always have people to call every day. And if for some reason you skip a day of calls, then you're going to have twice as many people filled in your notebook, because you're still converting addresses and phone numbers in your master list every day. For an hour every single day. Fill in as many as you can until you don't have any more time. And then whenever you're making your calls, you're just opening it up. And I would start with the ones that you have a number and an address for. If you run out of those, then you're going to start with the ones that have a number, and you're going to call them and ask where they live. You're just going to work it into the conversation, right? So my master list should always be way ahead of my call level, how many calls I can make in a day. And what happens is if you don't do that every single day, then there's a day or two, and then it turns into 3, and then it turns into 3 weeks that you're not calling anybody, because you haven't gone to your master list, you haven't added any new names, and you're not adding phone numbers and addresses, because then you got to figure out who to call. So, and who to talk to. And call could be a pop by too. I mean, it could be face to face as well. But no matter who you connect with, even if you want to just get with your closer friends and they would hear you out on the buyer consultation, you still need to make sure you're connected first and cultivated before you're going to get to that appointment. So again, appointment here, I would say don't worry about if they're an appointment for as an actual buyer who's ready to buy. You just need some at-bats giving the consultation stuff. Oh, we got might have a question from Anthony. I see a hand.
Yes. Before the buyer consultation, do you ask them if they've been pre-approved, or is that during the buyer consultation? Awesome question. So again, we're anxious to get real estate talk going. If an internet buyer calls me and I actually am talking to them on the phone, just before that would be connect first, right? So an actual internet lead, I call them back as fast as you got to call them back in probably 5 seconds or less, honestly, for the best chance to get them to answer. And if you have internet leads that you're not getting on the phone, the next question doesn't matter. That question doesn't matter because I haven't even connected with them yet. So the very first thing is, so you were on a website. I usually don't reference the website because they have no clue what site they were on. They'll just say, oh, like Zulia or something like that. I don't know which one I was on, whatever it is. Doesn't matter anyway. Say you were on a website, you were inquiring about a property. So just ask yourself, what's that mean? So does that mean you're starting the process of looking for a house? Are you guys ready to buy or what? And they'll tell you. They'll tell you either, well, we're just starting the process. There's no reason for me to ask them if they're pre-approved yet. I already know they're not, if they're just starting the process. I can still ask them. But if they say, no, I need to be in a house next week, my next question might be, okay, so where are you in the process so far? Well, we were just looking at a house and wanted to know how much it was. Okay, so I'm leading them in. So have you been to a lender and gotten approved? They said they need to be in next week. You would assume that they would be pre-approved, but depends on if they've even talked to a realtor who told them what the process was. They're like, oh no, we don't even know what we need to do. So how important is this week move? Because there is a little bit of stuff you got to get done first. Oh yeah, I mean, we'd love to move in a week. We hate renting. And then you find out, oh, they're not like homeless in a week. They just hate their renting. They hate paying rent, blah, blah, blah. Great. Well, I'm so glad we're talking today because I can really help you through the process to best take advantage of the current market conditions. So the first thing we need to do is probably get you with the lender. Now I'm going to do that, but I'm going to explain the process to them first, how this works. We're going to get you with a lender. They can do this stuff over the phone. It's 15 minutes, but it's very important that you do call them today if you are moving anytime soon, right? Because there's a little bit of stuff there. In the meantime, I'm going to find out what exactly are you guys looking for? Tell me about the area. Tell me about the price range. Tell me about all that stuff. And I'm writing it down on my blue for buyer form where I'm just following the process, getting their information, filling in the form. How many bedrooms do you need? What is it about that area? What's important about that date? All that stuff, right? And I keep those handy because that's gold. Like if I'm sitting at my desk, man, all I have to do is reach over here and grab a yellow form or a blue form. And I'm just like seamlessly grabbing their information because they're going into command as soon as I get off the phone. The drip plan starting, the notes going out, boom. I mean, the machine is on, can't turn it off. So the question that you asked is, when do I ask them if they're pre-approved? When it fits in the conversation appropriately. But until I get them on the phone and even find out what their situation is, it's irrelevant in my opinion. Because we don't even know if they're buying right now. Well, and here's a lot of the internet leads you get. It's like, yeah, we're calling about this property. Oh, have you gotten pre-approved yet? right? And they're like, no, we haven't started that process yet. And it's like, so how much are you wanting your monthly payment to be, right? And so you ask them another question, you get into this conversation about a couple minutes, and then you're like, so, you know, do you have down payment for money and all that for to buy it and close it? Oh, we don't want to buy, we want to rent. Okay, so they don't know. They don't know the process. So that's why you always ask that stuff up front and connect. It actually is very important on the consultation that you've had this first, so you know a little bit about them. And more importantly, that you've asked the question of what's important about this move, what's important about that date, what's important about that neighborhood, what's important about all that stuff, because you're going to tie it to the consultation to actually get them to sign the buyer agency before they leave. Is that good? Does that answer your question, Anthony?
Yes, it does. That makes sense. Thank you.
Right.
And one
If
more
you're-
question.
Yeah.
Sorry. That sheet that you have, is there any way we could access that?
Add to it.
Or access, like, is there any way we could get that what you use?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Is there any way we can what?
Access that sheet that you use for the buyer
Oh,
consultation?
yeah. Yeah, it's already, I'm sorry. Yes, it's already on the Google Drive that has all the extra stuff. I think one of the folders on there might say some of Brad's stuff, or you just shoot me an email and I'll get it to you. Which, by the way, I'll go ahead and throw my email in the chat. It's not hard to find me. If you do Brad Korn, Kansas City, Korn with a K, right? You're going to find every way to get a hold of me. So yeah, anything at all that you guys ever need or want, whether I covered it in class or not, just call me or text me or email me. Great question. I'll put my cell phone in here again too, so that you have it. I mean, I'm basically here for you. You guys, I'm your coach, right? So reach out on any of this stuff. Okay. Catch up with my notes, make sure I don't miss anything here. So cultivating, you got to capture people. Oh, what I was saying about the capture and stuff is once your master list has those names and numbers in there and you're calling out of that and you get them on the phone and you connect with them and you write them a note, cross them out of your master list notebook. You don't need them in there anymore. If you put them in command, you're good. Okay. You can always export your people out of command and move them somewhere else if some better database comes along. So anyway, yeah, see, I already had a sample of my sheet in front of me here in your notebook. I just wasn't caught up with my notes. So see, I'm just kind of chicken scratching all over the place. This tells me that I got them in the database and I sent the note. I think that says, yep, note. And all their information about what they're looking for. They will tell you their life story if you let them. Okay, let's see here. So the presentation, setting the appointment. There are role models, there's scripts in your Elements script book. Make sure you download this as well. All the presentation stuff is actually here to follow when you're going through the presentation. But before you get into that, you got to have a conversation with them. You got to connect with them. You got to get their address, be able to write them a note. And then you're going to need the scripts when you're sitting down with them and going through the consultation. The thing on the consultation, the buyer consultation is what we call it. All we're doing is going through the process of buying a home. And it real simply, it's we set your search up in MLS. You go get pre-approved by a lender. You drive, this is mine. You drive by every property that looks decent when I send it to you. If the drive-by looks good, then you'll call me or text me with that address and I'll see if it's still available. They can also text me before they drive by if it's a hot market. I'll always say, hey, text me with an address if it looks good on the email that I send you before you drive by, and I'll tell you if it's still available. Because that, I mean, if they text me address and it's the middle of the day, I can check MLS real quick on my phone and say, yep, that one's available. But I will always say, just drive by the ones that look decent. You get to check out the area, the neighborhood, whatever. You text me the address while you're driving by, I'll see if it's available. So that way, if I'm not like immediately responding and they drive by, it's okay. But if it's under contract, it's still okay. If it's under contract before they've driven by, I'll tell them that one looks like it might be under contract already. It's like, oh, dang, we missed it. So, and then that's when I say, now make sure that you're driving by them the day I send you the link. You can't do it later tomorrow or the next day. This market moves too fast. If they kept missing properties, that's the next conversation I'm having. Anyway, so we're going to send you the properties. You're going to text me the address. And once we get you approved and we have that approval letter from the lender, then we can start looking at houses. And promise, out of the next 10 I send you, you won't even want to see 7 or 8 of them. So we'll go look at the 2 right away. And then if you're going to write an offer, make sure you have your, well, I say checkbook, but now you can do everything electronic too. So we're going to have earnest money, make an offer, and I'll take you through the rest of the process. But some of the things that you'll need to prepare for, and this is just an overview of the whole consultation. One of the things you need to prepare for is having an inspection done on the property. That's upfront money, right? Some of the appraisals are upfront money to the lender. So I just go through that process. And then once they accept your offer, we have a certain amount of days to do stuff, blah, 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 blah. So it's really just taking them through the process, right? And so we'll do that. You'll see all those kind of scripts in the script book. And that's the one thing in this hour class, going through the scripts. Actually, I would go through every script if there was a way that I knew you'd remember them. There's no way you're going to remember them till you need it and you're sitting in front of them and you're ready to go. You could sit in an all day of script classes. And if we picked one and we talked about it for 8 hours, you'd remember that one. But even just going through a whole day of scripts, most people don't remember the script when they need it. So again, the best way to practice scripts and get the scripts down is for you to write objections down in a notebook, another notebook, the little flip pocket one. Just anytime somebody says something that you didn't know the answer to, write that down and then go back to those script books and see if you can find 2 or 3 things that would address that. And then by you writing down the objection and then writing the script in your notebook so you can reference it regularly, that's how you're going to learn the scripts. So it doesn't matter how long the class is and whether or not we went through them or not, just do your objection book. So on the actual appointment, oh, I did throw a couple extra slides in here. Just when you're practicing with people, partnering up with an agent, getting to know the inventory levels. You guys can all work with each other in different neighborhoods that you like, things like that. Getting pre-approved for a loan. Understand these are the things you do in the consultation. So you're going to, I kind of jacked that whole thing up. This is actual, what I just overviewed for you guys. Reviewing the market averages, complete their assessment, understanding what they can afford, determining what their monthly payment's going to be, how much money they need down. I got one other one here. I kind of just went over all this stuff. I forgot I put slides in here. You're going to, when they find a home they like, when you're being represented and somebody is looking out for your best interests, those are the kind of words that you want to look for. Try not to use the word, we got a buyer agency for you to sign, right? It's when you have an agent that you trust and that is your go-to person, that person's going to look out for your best interest. I mean, legally we call it representing you, but really it's somebody who's looking out for your best interest and can tell you everything that you need to know or want to know, right? So when you pick that agent, these are the things that we do. I can compare the home in the neighborhood prices to make sure you're not overpaying for a property. That does not mean that they won't have to go $20,000 overpriced to get the house. It's saying, I'm going to show you what things are selling for and show you what things are on the market so that you can make the best determination of what price it is. So in a crazy hot market, and prices are selling for 10 or 20,000 over the last sale, even though I'm showing them the sales, every month or two, the price is going up because it's a crazy out of control market, right? So even though there's no sales to back that up, you as a buyer, I may say, now you'll see here that these from 6 months ago were selling here, these 6 months after that were selling here, which was a little higher, and the pendings are 20,000 above that. So knowing that if you want this house going 20,000 over, if that's what we like, let's just say the listing agent said, you got to go to at least 20 over. And I would say going 20,000 over just to even win this house based on this stuff doesn't look like a bad decision. I don't know if you're going to overpay for it, but again, we don't know what's going to happen in the future either. But what I wouldn't want to do is see the values coming down and have you buy a house when values are going down, because then your value is going down from the day you buy it. You want to buy while the values are still going up. So again, these are just, again, it's the type of things that you're going to go through in the consultation. Making your offer, negotiating the terms. We're going to have an inspection period. Kind of went through all that already. So preparing the buyer presentation. And this is another thing that I'm just going to say, set aside some time to get completely confused and lost for a minute and go into Command and find the buyer consultation presentation section. It's all in there under the marketing materials. They have every kind of format, redesigned the same format, 10 different ways, all the content that's in there, every piece of information. And if you're newer, it's not that you got to memorize the information, and you definitely don't need to think about going through a consultation where you're reading every bullet point. Just glance through the information and then just walk through the process. You could go back to as simple as what I said. I'm going to send you properties. You're going to get pre-approved. Text me with the ones that you drive by. We'll go look at them. Once we find one we like, we'll write an offer. We do need to secure it with some earnest money. So you need to have some money in your bank account ready to just set it to title company, however you guys do that there, and go through the process, right? So in that console or in Command, you're going to have a ton of options. You could just have the one that has the stuff you're familiar with and just the slides that you know what they are if they ask questions. You don't have to put everything in there, and you don't have to cover everything in the consultation. Just cover what you're comfortable with and talk about those. And most of the time, they're doing most of the talking in the consultation, unless I'm like ready to get the buyer agency signed. We've talked, I found out what their urgency level is. I found out what they're looking for. I'm going to set their search up. We've got them connected with the lender. Now I'm just going to go through the couple of things that show the benefit of having somebody look out for your best interest. And so you just pull a few of these in here for any questions they may have. So what do we do if the roof's bad? Well, then there's an inspection slide that talks about the inspection and finding the results and blah, blah, blah. So what I did was I pulled up, and I'm going to make sure no questions. Anthony, your hand was still up, so I didn't know if you had a new question or not. If you're anywhere you want to pop that down, then I'll watch for it if it comes back up again. But this is just in Command under templates. You're going to see under buyers, buyer presentation. This is everything. There's listing stuff. There's leads. There's so much stuff in here. It is crazy. Your whole consultation could be this guide to home ownership practically. But anyway, there is a buyer presentation in there. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we're good. So right here is the buyer consultation. It has your instructions page. I mean, this is definitely worth taking an hour to go through and learn so that when you get your first buyer, you've at least looked at the consultation stuff in there. I already talked about the form. Buyer presentation, table of contents, so your dream home preferences. So you can actually walk through this like a workbook and just ask them what their dream home is. What are your preferences? What about the neighborhood? You can actually just follow it. Like, I'm going to take some notes while we're going through this, and you don't have to call it a buyer consultation. This is the process of buying a home and how to take advantage of the current market conditions. Let's start here. Tell me about your dream home. And you just go through the process, right? So it's got, I mean, it's just got tons of stuff in here. Your home wish list. So this is going to talk about, you know, there's things that they're going to say they want in a house, and you can have a conversation around it. Like in this market, that you may not get 10 out of the 10 things you want. In fact, if we find a really nice home that you feel good about, and it's got 6 of the 10 things you want, you don't need to wait for another one that's going to have 7 or 8. You're really probably going to make an offer on it in this market because there's a shortage of homes. So you can't wait for something else. It might not come back on the market. And if it does, and it has 10 of the 10 things you want, then it means it's probably going to have more people competing for it, and price is going to go up even more. So now we're kind of satisfied or getting settled in to get most of what we want. And this is, again, where we ask. I will say that on this form, there is one thing that I ask, if you want to write this down, is tell me what your dream home looks like. So I'll start there and then back off. So my dream home is 4 bedrooms, 3-car garage, fenced yard, blah, 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 blah. Great. Now, so is 4 bedrooms important? Well, no, we could do 3 as long as it's got a room down in the basement. So I might set up 2 different searches in their MLS where I've got their dream home, and it will say dream home, and it lists the 10 of the 10. They won't get something from that very often, but that auto search is set up as dream home. And now in the generic one that I opened up the search, the dream home is going to show up on this list too in my automatic MLS search. So I'm going to say it's going to show up in both, but if you get this email that says dream home, that's the one you need to look at it immediately, and you need to drive by it and call me if you want to see it, because that has everything that you wanted, and you won't see something from that very often. So all the neighborhood insights, again, the reason why I have them drive by the properties is it really allows them to familiarize themselves with the neighborhoods. You get the app on their phone at the consultation and say, in this app, you can circle around a neighborhood and it'll tell you all the statistics, average days on market. So you're getting them your app, your personalized app. And this is what I went through earlier, how the home buying process works, right? Then you come to that's Keller Mortgage Form, a value proposition. Did you put yours together? Again, what is the benefit of working with you? And you want to make sure in that paragraph are those 2 or 3 things that really make you special that your competitors may or may not say. Conducting the consultation. All right. So this one, honestly, with these books, you can literally just go through the book, but you're going to eventually come to the buyer representation agreement. So I'm going to tell you how simple this is. After you go through this book, all this stuff here, and you've explained everything and kind of summarized those pages, and you come to the agreement. Before you say anything, just say, so can you see how it'd be a benefit to have somebody looking out for your best interest during this transaction? Did you guys hear that? Can you see how it would be a benefit having somebody look out for your best interest? And what would all of you imagine they would almost say every single time? Could you see how it'd be a benefit having somebody look out for your best interest? It's a dumb yes question. Well, yeah, we could see the benefit of having somebody represent us. Now, what you're probably saying to yourself is, but what if they say, I don't want to sign anything? We haven't asked them to sign anything yet. See, you're jumping ahead here. You've gone through this whole process of how to take advantage of the current market. You're explaining the process. You're getting all this stuff. So they're kind of excited right now that they understand the process. Can you see how it'd be a benefit to have somebody looking out for your best interest? They 99.999% of the time say yes. And you say, great, this form allows me to do that. This form allows me to do that. Slide it in front of them and hand them the pen. This form allows me to do that. Great. 1 out of 20 will say, well, we don't know what we're really signing yet. Great. Then just take the form home, look over it tonight. Here's a highlighter. Take this home with you. Highlight anything that you have questions about. Read the fine print, and we'll get back together in the next day or two. Because it would be a benefit to have somebody looking out for your best interest. That's it. I mean, that's all there is to it. If they ask questions, you don't have to force them to sign something they don't feel comfortable signing. 99% of the people are going to sign it when you say it that way. So if you get 99% of the people saying, I don't know, then you're not presenting it right. You're still trying to push it through too hard. And you're not casually having a conversation about the process like it's your mom or your brother, because they would sign it. Does that make sense? Just keep it simple. I know, I make everything sound so dang easy. How's he do that? It is that easy. Just the benefit to them is having somebody look out for their best interests. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, I already talked about sharing the app. That should have been a little bit earlier when you've got them out driving around. Actually, the reason why this is here is because you want the buyer agency signed. Now what we can do is start getting your search set up and all that other stuff. So you're walking through the benefits of having somebody represent you. Now that I'm representing you, here's my app, here's the thing. So we talked about what they were going to do with it. Now you're giving it to them and you're setting them up on the MLS search. If you cannot send me your app right now, then you need to set aside a minute or two and go figure out where your app is, find out how to send it to yourself and see what it looks like. Because one of the things that I did was I sent it to myself so I know what it looks like, so I could take a screenshot off my phone. And that way, when I'm texting somebody the link to download my app, I can show them what it looks like. This is what you're going to get on your phone. And this is also going out as an automatic email and a couple other things in our touch thing that, hey, if you haven't done it yet, download our app. And then when we send them the link, they know what they're looking for. So I actually took a picture of exactly what it looks like. I also sent an email to myself to see what it looks like. And then the collection of saved homes and stuff in the back end of Command, it's going to save all their searches. You're going to have that in your MLS as well. I use the MLS a lot because I know that's the most direct way to get them. And then, you know, align your guide or customize your whole search guide, which is, again, more advanced stuff, but going in and customizing all the things that they're seeing. How you customize everything is put yourself in Command and put yourself on your own buyer plan and experience what it looks like. If you have friends, put them on it next. If you have family members, put them on it. Have them show you what it looks like when they get it, because everybody has different computers, everybody has different phones, people use iPads, people use laptops, people use desktops. So you need a core group of like your 5 or 6 people, especially if they're the ones that will let you go through the presentation, to have them, I'm going to set you up on a search and I want you to let me know what it looks like when you get it from me. So I know when they ask questions. So they're helping you do this, but they're actually, you're getting to go through the process 5, 6, 7 times. So that's it. That's all there's a little bit of prep in here, but are you glad that we kind of went over it this way, that you'd feel a little more comfortable that if a buyer did say today, or one of your friends said, you know, yeah, I'll listen to the consultation, do you feel like you're a step closer, like you might be able to pull it off with a little bit of help or with a little bit of prep? I mean, I know you don't know everything that's in Command yet, but now you know there is a bunch of stuff in Command. There is some stuff in there, and your first couple of people that you share this with, you don't even need it all. Just go through the process and figure out what you're missing and then go back and look for it. So it is a little bit of a process. I definitely would not sit at home for a week and go through and figure it all out before I talk to somebody. I think you should reverse that. It's the ready, fire, aim. We'll aim later. Just fire. Just get somebody to let you sit down and talk about it, even if you don't have the stuff in front of you. That will help you find the right stuff as you're having the conversation. Your very first one, if you guys did this today, right after you hang up, you call somebody, say, hey, I really need to go through this buyer consultation that I just went through. And it's like, okay, come on over. And you get there and you're like, okay, I honestly don't even know where to start. That's like perfect. That's what we needed to happen. So you know where to start. Now I need to go watch the video again. What did he say I do first? And that's how you're going to start getting it. All right. So anyway, here's the survey link. I'll pop that up, throw that in the chat box. If you guys would, if you're in a place where you can just click on that link, it will open up a second tab, or throw it open on your phone, and you can do it later if you're driving or something. But feedback is important for your office, all the leadership, to know that this is something we want to keep getting. Okay. Questions, ahas, anything I can help with on any part of this? Good stuff. Are you
Great stuff.
awesome? And so you're excited about a buyer consultation is what I'm hearing everyone say. Wow, that's amazing, because you came into this call scared to death about a buyer consultation, how you were ever going to do one. So now you're walking away excited about it. That's the goal. All right, guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead. What?
I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, start with some friends, grab, you guys, here's the names, if you guys are in the office together, just say, all right, let's do it. Let's just sit down and go through let's just see how we do. I'd rather do it with one of you guys first, right? So grab each other and do the outside exercises and just go through it. You'll figure out exactly what you don't know and what you need to know to feel comfortable doing it. Have fun. Have fun.
Brad, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed it. I can always just go back and rewatch the recording. There's 2 layers. You said that the second layer was, and I missed out on it.
Was it on lead generation?
Yes. So the
Yeah,
first
so
layer is the 4 laws. So what's the
the
second
4
layer?
laws of lead generation are build a database,
Yeah, I have that. Like communicate. I mean,
feed
feed
it
it
every day,
everything.
feed it
Communicate
every day.
systematically and
Yep.
service all the leads. But what's the second layer?
No layer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it might have been
No,
something else. Okay.
and I'm just going to give you guys some insight. Okay. I've been teaching this stuff for a long time because I set all this up 20 years ago before MREA was written. When MREA was written, I didn't call mine the 8x8, and it may not have been 8 touches, but it was a series of touches that happened after I met anyone. And the first thing was always the note. So that part's always been there, even before MREA came out. But Gary gave us the 8x8 and the 36 touch and those studies that were done. I'm gonna tell you right now, over 90% of our company does not do step 2 and step 3. We've got the database built. So people, I mean, I'm talking big teams are putting people in their database and then they're just servicing all the leads. They're not feeding it every day. They're not. I've tracked the biggest teams in the company. Now, big teams, there are people that are, but there's probably this many that I know of that are feeding their database every day. And I don't call internet leads being shoved into the database, feeding a database. I'm talking about connections. I know about this many people that are doing that in almost 200,000 agents. And they skip the systematically, consistently, persistently communicate with it. An all email drip plan is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a multi-purpose connection with phone calls in it. See, I've had over a dozen teams bring me in. They paid me, flew me out to their team. 2 days, we set up all their systems, all these plans. Nobody has personal touches in their systems. It's all automated. It's too automated. And you got to add the personal touch back into everything you do. From the buyer, from contract to close, from the time you list a house until it sells, there's got to be phone calls programmed into your system, or you won't know that they're upset and ready to fire you. Or they're sitting there thinking, what are they even doing to get our house sold? We've had 20 people look at our house. Well, today you can have 20 people through your house in one day. The first day it goes live. You don't think the sellers are sitting there going, do they know how to sell anything? I mean, they had 20 people through our house and they're not calling us with any offers. That's ridiculous, right? And unless you're making phone calls, you're never going to know this stuff. So I think I think it was Elizabeth that made that best comment, was the email alone isn't going to do it. So good stuff, guys.
Brad, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
one concern. Do
Yes.
you mind sending like Zoom link as reminder before each session?
Say that
Because,
again. A reminder what?
like before, you used to send Zoom links before session starts. So that would be a reminder for us. And
Oh,
maybe-
yeah. I usually do send out emails ahead of time, don't I?
No, but the last 3 sessions I couldn't join because it's.
Yeah, I'll make sure I pop that in there and get it to you. Sometimes after we get going, I like to see if you got it on your calendar or not. So, yep, we'll definitely send out the reminders and what to get and make sure you have the handout. So I appreciate you saying that. I'm glad you made it in.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
All right, guys, we will see you on, what is today? Wednesday, Friday. See you.
Friday.
All right.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Brad.
Yep.
Bye.